Today's podcast, I want to go over how I got to be where I am today, where I'm headed in the future, some valuable lessons that I've learned along the way, and who knows what else I'm going to say. So take a listen.
Welcome to the Ben Plikerd podcast. Ben is a hardworking, fun-loving guy that loves to balance lots of plates. Whether or not he's good at it, that's another story. Ben grew up in Syracuse, Indiana, and as an entrepreneur, he has learned the right, wrong, and really wrong way to do things. Ben often says he has multiple PhDs in mistakes. Join us on another interesting story on why Ben is the way he is, what he has learned the hard way, or what a day in the life of an entrepreneur is really like. No episode will ever be the same. Thanks for tuning in.
So today marks my official EIN anniversary of 25 years that I have been in business. Now, truthfully, I've been doing business a few years further than that because I was doing stuff in high school. I was even doing stuff in middle school. But right now, I am officially, my corporation, the first one, Benson Communications, is now 25 years old. I find that absolutely amazing. I can't even hardly believe that. Time flies. I mean, I have vivid memories of, geez Louise, everything that I have done over the past, 25 years. The employees that I have had come and go, it's crazy. I still think about many things that I was doing 25 years ago with the employees, like Chris Beatty. I've been through multiple downturns in the economy. I've had to hire people. I've had to fire people. I've had to downsize. I've had to upsize really, really quick. And all of those are things that you learn from, things that you get better at and better at. I look at where I was 25 years ago. I thought I knew it all. I listened to advice that was not good. I listened to advice from people that were not in the business world. And that's one of the worst things that you can do, is listen to advice from non-business owners if you're going to be in business, because it's just truly, they don't know. And when you get to talk to other business owners, man alive, you can learn so very much. But I guess I want to reflect a little bit on how I got to be where I am, how I am, where I'm headed, and basically how we go about moving on from 25 years and where I'm headed. I did want to comment on the fact that I am sitting here in a jacket. I hate cold weather. I am obviously cold all the time, and I am not made for Indiana weather. I've never been made for Indiana weather, but somehow I was born in Indiana, and I have not yet moved further south. I kind of joke about this, but my grandparents on my mom's side, they moved from Wisconsin to Goshen to Syracuse, so they were moving south. But my grandparents on my dad's side, on the other hand, they moved north from like Terre Haute, Crawfordsville area, north to Syracuse. They had it the wrong way. They were going the wrong direction. I understand, obviously, you move because of work, but regardless, I want to move south. And even if it's not full-time, I'm not made for this. My house in Florida right now is at 82 degrees, and I'm sitting here. It is a pretty day outside. It's like 50 some degrees outside, so that's pretty good for February. But still, I'm in my jacket, and I've had my jacket on since I left the house this morning. But Benson Communications started in 2000. I was realistically just trying to do some video service, editing videos, making videos for people. I had a friend, Chris Beatty, who wanted to do computer stuff. I didn't know computers that well. I mean, obviously I did. In high school I was teaching people how to use Google. that was a foreign concept. I was on BBSs. I was helping the schools, in IT. So I was doing a lot of that type of stuff. So I did have the knowledge base, but I didn't have the true knowledge base. And so Chris came on to help me. He was with me for like 3.5, 4 years or something like that, and he helped me grow the company and to get it to the point where we were. Dial-up internet is something that actually, believe it or not, launched Benson, because we were an authorized dealer for KC Online. We really grew the company because people were coming in to sign up for KC Online, and then they found out that we did computer repair, and then one thing led to another thing, and we were signing up 40, 60 customers a month. And it's crazy because now in the computer world, we don't hardly sign up any new customers unless they're business customers. Residential, we just don't even really care about. I know that sounds terrible, but regardless, that's how we got Benson really, really started. Then over the years, I kind of phased out the video stuff. I don't do anything video related now. The only video stuff that I do is making videos for training staff, making, on my YouTube channel and things like that. That's pretty much all I do for video type of stuff. I wished I kind of knew it, because believe it or not, when I was in high school, one of the things that I wanted to do, there were two paths that I wanted to take before I was dating anybody, anything like that. And path number one was I wanted to go into either the NSA CIA route, and which maybe I do work for them and you just don't know it. And two was I wanted to actually make movie trailers. That's one of the things that I wanted to do. I was always fascinated with movie trailers. Ask my kids, ask my wife. Lots of times that's all I do is watch movie trailers. I'm just fascinated with them, and then I add a whole bunch of movies that I want to watch to my watch list, and I never actually watch them. But that's the reason why, is because I guess I'm kind of fascinated with movie trailers. But I was working at Dana Corporation in 1999, 2000. And I kind of wanted to do something on my own. At the time, I was dating somebody that was not supportive of that at all. Wanted me to work in a full-time job somewhere, so that's why I was working at Dana. I decided to start up my own side thing and see how that worked. And it wasn't anything, great or special. Got some office space. My Dana Corporation job was accelerating quite a bit. And my part-time job really wasn't doing anything. And I distinctly remember this on Labor Day weekend, maybe a week, 2 weeks before that. I was struggling with Benson. I'm like, I don't know how much longer I want to keep doing this. And I went to lunch with my dad. And, Dana was really growing, and I was getting flown around the country doing stuff for them. And I'm like, man, I don't think I want to, continue doing the whole Benson thing. I'm not making any money. In fact, it was costing me $400, $500, $600 a month. And I'm just like, what am I doing this for? And I mean, it got to the point where it went like 2 weeks and I never even went to the office because I didn't care. It was just stressful. And went to lunch with my dad like a couple days before Labor Day weekend. I think it was like a week before. And he also worked at Dana. And he says, Ben, just give it one more month. Just one more month. If you can't make it work, then just, give up on it, close it out, be done with it. And I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. And truthfully, that conversation was a major move. At the time, I was no longer dating my ex, so I didn't have to worry about which direction I was going to go or anything like that. And it was at that next weekend, I think it was Labor Day weekend. And the Friday before Labor Day weekend, I got called into the office and I got let go. The crazy thing about it is now that hindsight is 2020, I didn't know these types of things. I should have filed unemployment, and I could have gotten unemployment, and nobody told me I should have done that, and I was just naive. I was, pretty young, and so that's neither here nor there. But then that next day, That Tuesday after Labor Day, I took the weekend. You obviously decompress when you lose your job. You're like, well, what do we do? And I went full steam into Benson, and I like was there all the time, sun up, sun down. I was working all the time. And then the whole KC Online thing, they found out that I was there all the time, and they wanted to sign up a new agent. And then one thing led to another thing, and within the first week, being out of Benson there, or out of Dana, I was actually generating close to, boy, I made more that week than I had in the whole months before. And I'm like, I'm onto something. This could actually work. Chris wasn't working really necessarily full time or anything like that. He came in and helped me on computers when I needed it, and it was more so of a friendship type thing. And we just kind of hung out, and I wasn't even paying him anything at the time. And then one thing led to another. The tenants next door to us, they came to us and we started doing all their IT stuff for them, which we didn't really have the experience to do that. But we had, I mean, between the two of us, we were able to figure things out that needed to be done. They got us some, recurring business. It wasn't anything like monthly recurring, but it was recurring business. It got to the point where one day I got to the office at 9 o'clock, and I didn't get there early that day or something like that. I think it was Saturday. And I got there and I had 20 people in line waiting at my door. And I'll never forget this because I like walk in the door and I see a bunch of people, there's cars out in the parking lot. I'm like, what the heck is going on? There was other tenants in this building, the McWest building. And I go in and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I see people on the hallway, and I kind of walk around and I'm like, what's going on? And they were like, we're just waiting on this guy to open up. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so sure enough, I go in, and they were all there to see me. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I was blown away. And that truly, that said to me that day, it's like, people want my services. And I wasn't making money. I mean, I was making like $35 for every time I, signed up a customer and on KC Online. But then I got that recurring business from them. They were like, "Hey, can you set this up for me? And can you do this? And can you do this?" And because these people at the time, dial-up internet was a new thing. People didn't understand how any of that type of stuff worked. They just knew they wanted to get on the internet. Type of thing. I actually use my other left hand, but I've stopped the recording now because my Samsung Ring will actually, if I pinch my hands too close, it actually stops and takes a picture. So I have to be careful. It's kind of one of those things. It's a neat little gesture tool for Samsung. Using the Samsung Ring, but it's got some downfalls that I've noticed, especially when you're recording a video. You're like, oh crap, where was I at? And so. Neither here nor there. I'm going to try not to use my left hand because I don't want to get like this thing to stop. But Benson really started to take off. Then it got to the point where after about 6 to 8 months, we were running out of room. We had no room for computers. I was actually storing computers in one of the closets of the next door attorneys because I just didn't have room to put anything. I was working all the time, which was fun, things like that. The tiny lessons that you learn that you don't realize. And boy, I could go on for hours and hours and hours about some of the lessons I've learned from those days when I was back at there. Then I got to the point where one of the mentors at the time, Tim Yeager, we had a falling out several years later. But I don't really truly understand why that happened so much. But we did, and he's since passed away. Since then, unfortunately, without knowing the Lord. And that kind of bothers me a lot because he was a very angry person toward the end of life. And but anyway, he was wanting to like kind of downsize his business. He was having problems with his vision. He just wanted to not do his photography stuff as much anymore because he wasn't going to be able to do it. And I'm like, I needed the space. So then I took over the front of his building, and then we took over the next part of his building. We just kept going, and to the point where he just bought another building and moved down to another office, and that worked out pretty well. One of the things that we then at that point in time, we had a falling out. He didn't want to fix the building up, and we had tenants' computers get destroyed, and because the shower pipes were leaking, and He just told us to put plastic up and not actually fix the problem. And that caused some issues. And I think that there was more to it than that. I personally, I think he was kind of jealous of the success. And I wasn't making any money. I was more looking at everything I was doing at that time as a fun thing to do instead of just something to make money. And it took me realistically probably 15 years to realize that I'm not in this for the fun. I'm in it I need to make money. And truthfully, it was when I had my first kid. I think that's when I'm like, I need to actually make money. And it's not to say that I wasn't making money. I was paying my bills, and that's pretty much the extent of it. I wasn't investing in my future and things like that. That's kind of like the story of where Benson got started. We then I was trying to find another office space because we were running out of problems, or we were running out of space. He didn't want to work with us anymore. I found out the Key Bank was available. I got denied by like 20 some banks to get that property. And then one thing led to another. And then I just spent the next, 10 years fixing that building up. I'm like, look at, and 20 years later, I'm still working on that building because, things that I did 20 years ago are now in the process of needing to be remodeled. And unfortunately, there's just never enough money. I mean, that building is massive. It's 23,000 square feet and it's all finished. But we diversified and we've added apartments. And the list could go on and on. So that's the history of how I got to be where I am. Kept buying buildings, kept diversifying and things like that. So now I kind of want to go in and explain some of the life lessons I've learned in business. I'm not sitting here saying that I am an expert at business, because that is not the case. As my podcast intro even says, I believe I have multiple PhDs in mistakes, and truthfully, if one person can learn from the mistakes that I've made, then all the power to them. And I want to share my knowledge with people, and I want to help them as much as possible. So here are some of the things that I've learned over the last 25 years. I've written a book on all of the different things that I've learned. It's not published yet, but that's a whole nother thing I don't have time to work on. But one of the biggest things that I have to say is, I started to explain this earlier, but when you're looking for business advice, do not ever listen to somebody not in business, regardless. They don't know. They think that they know, because everybody thinks that business is easy. And once you're in business, it's not easy. Not one part of it is easy. And I will say, in the last 25 years, business has gotten harder and harder and harder and harder and harder every single year because of all of the regulations that there is. And everything that the profit that used to exist in our country is just doing this. As our GDP is not matching how much we're spending, we're outsourcing, or we're bringing in from other countries, and we're not sending stuff out, and then we're just printing money. That profit level for each company is just getting less and less and less. And then the more that there's the individuals, consumers are spending with the big jump companies like Amazon that are not paying taxes legally. They're not paying taxes because that's how the tax loopholes work. It's just rather frustrating. So it makes it harder and harder and harder each year for business owners to succeed. And it's because we're evil, and that's how society has portrayed business owners. And I can tell you, for one, it wears on you. I mean, I've had family members tell me that what happened to the Ben that I used to know, and truthfully, I'm jaded, and my wife knows that. Most people that I know that know me, they will say that I'm jaded, and it's not because I want to be. It's just because that I've had so many people take advantage of me, screw me. I mean, I lost track of this because it made me so sick to my stomach. In the zip code of 46567. I stopped keeping track of this. Now, I want you to remind you, I stopped keeping track of this around 2012, 2015-ish era, and because I couldn't stand it anymore. I kept track of the amount of bad debt that I had from Syracuse, Indiana, the 46567 zip code. And I want to tell you, it's not that big of a town. but I had over $354,000 in bad debt. And when I saw that number, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep track of this anymore. We went through and then started doing all of our payments issues and things like that differently. But that brings me to the second point. Of the things that I have learned, I don't do anything for people unless I am paid for it up front, and that I collect e-check or that type of payment, credit card, because I want to make sure that I have my funds. And when somebody pays us for a job, we do not, we don't proceed with the job until those funds are been securely where they can't, the check can't come back. I write about this, how about KeyBank almost put me out of business with Americamp. In my book, I go into massive detail on this because they kept trying to run KeyBank's check through. And it was like $13,000. I wrote a whole bunch of checks. They waited a month and a half to tell me that check was bad. And then they charged me daily over limit fees and NSF's fees for everything. I ended up having to pay KeyBank almost $10,000 in fees. And when that happened, I can't tell you, that still upsets me. I call them Fee Bank, not KeyBank, and I refuse to do business with KeyBank ever again. But that's a whole nother story. I think I could actually make a whole podcast just about that episode because they were just nasty. So number 3 is I don't go into business unless I can make it a recurring business. Broke Point was one of the first things that violated that rule. I wasn't planning on buying Broke Point. It's a hotel, but I did like the fact that it could make cash, and it did until COVID. That's a whole nother can of worms right there. But with recurring, where I can annually, or I can monthly, or I can quarterly zap payments out of people's accounts. That's how we survive. Every single day, 365 days of the year, I am processing somebody's payment electronically, automatically, every night at midnight. And that's truthfully, that's how I've grown to be where I am today. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm making tons of millions of dollars, a year in profit, because that's not the case. That's not where I am today, because I've had to change out my entire customer base, which that's a whole confusing process on alone. I could actually go through a whole nother podcast just explaining how I've had to retransition my entire recurring business model within the last 5 years. Makes me sick to my stomach on how much I've had to do that. And it's not necessarily it's my fault. It's just the needs of customers have changed. The technology has changed, and I've had to keep up and go from things like that. I've transitioned customers where I was making between 5 and 10 points on, and to the point where now I'm making 95 to 98% profit margin on these customers. So everything that I've done, it's done great. I mean, it's caused lots of bags under my eyes, makes me tired all the time, but regardless. So the next point I want to go over is every time that the economy has changed, decreased, whatever, I have diversified. When 9/11 happened, that's when I started going into the recurring business model, because I needed to make sure that I was still getting paid regardless, because I wasn't getting paid. And then when 9/11 happened, everybody was freaked out. They didn't do anything. And all of a sudden I had lots of computer business, and then I had nothing. And it went like that for like 2 months. I'm not sure if anybody remembers 9/11, but that was a very stressful time for me. And not just me, but that caused me to go into the recurring business model. Then, in 2000, just in 2008, when the market crashed, I lost all of my commercial tenants. Well, not all of them, but almost all of them within 2 months. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So then I diversified into going into residential apartments, and that has helped. Now I have a nice mix between residential and commercial. I wished it was a little bit more, but right now the economy is not great. Every year since Biden was in, it has gone down, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. My hope, and my only hope, is that Trump changes some things, which I believe that he will. Going to decrease the size of the federal government, and that's going to hopefully, move and change. We had entire plans in place. I had a 16-page plan if Harris won that we were going to implement, and it was because I was going to diversify out of everything that I had and move into a different type of business that I thought that maybe might survive America's socialist economy that it was headed to. And I was very, very, very nervous about that, because when I make plans, I try to plan, somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 years out. And I'm struggling with that right now too, because of so much AI and the things that's going to change has me scared beyond belief. So the next thing, so anyway, diversification. Every time that something is happening, I was diversified. And then what's sucked about that is I haven't really focused on getting sales up into each one of those areas because I've been so busy on other things. We're now changing that, which is thankfully that's great. It just takes a long time for those plates to spin, and now I can keep those plates spinning by that. Passive income is the other thing that I will tell you that is very, very important to do. Passive income is key to building wealth. And I'm going to give you one example of what a passive income is if you buy a rental property and you bought this house, for $100,000. I'm just making that number up, right? And you have somebody renting that house from you every single month, and they're paying you $1,500 a month. That's passive income, because you're now making money while doing nothing. And nothing is not the right word, but you're kind of getting the hint that you don't have to show up to work that day to make money. And when I do things, I try to think about passive income and how do I make money and that recurring mindset through passive income. The next point I'm going to tell you is payroll is your biggest expense, and you have to do whatever it takes to keep that payroll down. I always wanted to hire people because I thought the more people I had, the better business person I was. And reality is that is not true. Of anything that you can be lied to about, that is it. Do not add employees just because you want to add employees. When I go into my business day, every day, I try to think about things that I can take off of my plate and give to other people. But now necessarily I outsource as much of that as possible to much less skilled labor and or cheaper labor, because payroll is your biggest expense, especially in the United States, where they have all these minimums that you have to meet, and you have to do this and you have to meet, and if you don't make, if this person works over so many hours, now you have to pay them up to past $58,000, and you have to pay, and all of these rules and regulations, and the less people that you have, the better off that you're going to be, and that's why a lot of businesses hire part-time people, is because a lot of those things, those rules. Don't be afraid to recreate. I've had to recreate my businesses constantly. I don't know what business I've started that I haven't had to recreate and change and do all this other type of stuff. It's like when we have to redo our website, I'm like, well, we just did our website. Oh, that was 10 years ago. Things like that just type of, you have to constantly recreate. You have to constantly be paying attention to the customers and what they're wanting and what they're doing and what they're not doing. Right now, a lot of them are just, they work, then they go home and watch Netflix, and that's it, because they don't have lots of other money. But regardless, I have to keep watching out for that type of stuff constantly. So the one of the next things that I have to say is the point is you don't ever want to stop marketing, regardless of what it is what business you're in. You don't want to ever stop marketing. And I'll be honest, I failed at this really big time over the last 4 years. When COVID happened, we had all of our automated marketing turned on, and we were going gangbusters on that. And we had to turn it all off because, I mean, it was backfiring on us. And people were like, why are you sending us this? We can't use this. We have to stay in our houses. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so we turned off all of this marketing. And then slowly over the last, 4 years, we're like, oh my gosh, we never turned this back on. Oh my gosh, we never turned this back on. Oh my gosh. And so we've actually been having meetings about all of the things that we didn't have turned back on that we need to. So don't ever stop marketing. And that is a shame on me for not thinking about some of those automated marketing things that we had. I just kept being in the day to day, and I hate being in the day to day, but that's where I am a lot of times. I specifically try not to be in the day-to-day as much as possible. Heck, I don't even come into work until 11 o'clock in the morning, because the more that I can not be at work, the more that I can let my employees doing their things that they need to be doing. Because when I'm there, they're just getting more and more and more and more and more and more work, because I'm in there working on, something from a year from now, something on 10 years from now, and something that we need to change the process and procedure. So then I'm sending out emails on how we need to do this type of stuff. So I'm always constantly filling their plate. And so if I'm not there, then at that point in time, it's one of those things. And I only have so many employees, and so I have to be very careful on that type of stuff. I will say that from all of the employees that I've had, I've learned something from every single one of them over the years that I've gotten to know. And I still reach out to a lot of them, and I still get emails occasionally and Facebook messages from employees. And they're like, thanks, Ben, for this. And you taught me so much from this. And I will say that makes me feel good. Because being a business owner, it's very underappreciated. People don't appreciate you. They just don't. And they can love you 1 second, and then they're gonna cuss you out the second. And it's amazing what they will do when you're in the public. It's just absolutely amazing. But I will say that the next thing is that God is always teaching me something. Every time I go down this path or that path, he's just like, you need to learn this. I don't know what it is. My wife and I talk about that all the time. We don't know exactly what it is that God is preparing me for or teaching me for. And maybe it's because you're watching this video right now, or maybe you're going to watch this video in 10 years from now, and who knows what it is that you're going to, that you're getting out of this, even if anybody's even watching this. But I really needed to actually start getting some of this stuff out of my head, because I feel like, employees, family, everything, they need to know more about me and why I do certain things certain ways. And I feel also like employees themselves, if they know why we do something and why we got to where we were, then they can actually do their job better. One of the other things that I've learned is what I have nicknamed information overload. Every person that is in society right now is going through information overload. They are not able to handle basic, simple things because on their phone, they're getting 16,000 messages a day. Their inbox has got 23,000 unread emails. They've got notifications for this spam call that's coming in. This thing in Netflix, they rearranged all of the different buttons and icons. When you hit print button in Microsoft now, you can't hit print because your computer hasn't done a Windows update. So then you got to do a Windows update, and then it comes up with a whole bunch of other things. Technology is causing information overload, and you have to be prepared for that when you're going into your business. And you've got to make sure that your business, whatever you're doing, is as simple as possible. If you get to the point where things are so complex, your employees are not going to handle it. They're not going to know what to do because they're fighting internally. Their brain power only handles so much. And then when you throw on a whole bunch of changes, operational changes, things like that for you in your office, in your building, your customers, they cannot keep up. Change things as least as possible for your customers because you need to be that steady platform. When Amazon and Gmail's out there changing all the buttons and the icons just to freaking change an icon. I mean, some of these companies are having meeting after meeting after meeting to change icons and placements and all of this type of stuff. And it's just like, why are you changing this stuff? We do business with this one company, and their interface hasn't changed in like 10 years. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is such a it's just a great feeling, because of that very thing. So when we go into business with our customers, we try to do the exact same thing. Change as few things as humanly possible. That would be my next point. Keep it simple. That is absolutely what you should do. Um, and I guess one of the things that probably the biggest thing that I can say, and my final point that I'm going to go over today, is trust but verify. I have had employees take advantage of me, and deliberately, non-deliberately, uh, because they thought that they knew better than me, and Ben won't notice. Ben doesn't care. I mean, the list can go on and on. But when I say trust but verify, I mean it. That is the number one thing that I can kind of go over and tell you that I have learned over in the last 25 years. You tell somebody to do something, you're going to go into the mindset that you're going to expect them to do that, but you need to have a way and a methodology to follow up and make sure that it did happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to constantly go after that person. For years, people would say that I micromanage things. Well, I micromanage things because I have been burnt. And now I get to the point where I'm trying to have other people checking on those things to make sure that they were done and not me. We have an expression in our company, something called done. You tell me that it's done, I'm expecting that it's done. It's not just, I'm going to accomplish this when on my way home tonight, I'm going to drop off this letter in the mail. People would tell me that it's done, and then all of a sudden, well, in reality is the envelope slid between the seats and laid underneath your seat until you realized that that important letter never got to that person, and you said that it did, and you told me that it was, but in reality is it never actually happened. It's not done. You didn't see that envelope go into the mailbox. So you can't tell me that something is done until you have seen it be done. And so that's what we call done. And I can't express how important that is. Where am I headed in the next 25 years? I'll be in business 25 years from now, I'm sure of it. What does it look like today? Who absolutely knows? I don't have a clue. I mean, Benson Communications, I've actually tried killing that company multiple times, and it just keeps making money. And it's not making a bunch of money, but it pays all of its bills. And I mean, I have no debt with that company. I'm not making lots of money with it, but it just continues to be there. And it's just like, that's kind of a hard thing to do when it's just, it's just sitting there making money. It's not making much, but it's making money. And it's like, why should I get rid of something like that? Not that I didn't try. So where do I plan on seeing myself? I'm going to be, outsourcing more and more and more with AI. I'm going to have to be very diligent on watching changes, watching customers change, watching what works, what doesn't work. I know for a fact that there's some of my products that will not exist in 10 years. And so I have to go into that mindset now and figure out how do I get it to the point where that's not going to be the case, and diversify out of that now while I still can, and instead of writing that to zero and then to the point where it's -0, and I don't want to lose money on anything, and I've learned that lesson. I mean, I had a CFO that used to believe lose money on everything and we'll make it up with volume. And truly, he would say that. And I was so naive and young. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to make lots of other money from other things. And so it doesn't really matter if we lose a little bit over here, a little bit over here. But in reality is it does make a big difference. And now I don't go in anything like that. If that thing's not making me money when I'm starting it, I don't even do it. So regardless, that's my mindset. I'm very much in favor of not ever losing money on anything. That's a whole nother conversation I could go into about that. But in case you didn't catch on, I've got lots of conversations that I could have and talk about talk about a lot of things. But I want to get to the point where I am someplace warm. To be honest with you, it's not just about warmth. Every single year, I seem to fall on ice. Every single year. And as I'm getting older, that is becoming more and more of a problem, because when I hit that ground, it's getting harder and harder and harder. And I don't know what it is about me. I don't know if it's my hand-eye coordination, which sucks. That's why I don't play video games. But I fall on ice all the time, and it hurts more and more every time. And the last time I fell on ice last year, I mean, I hit my head and I just had to lay there for a couple minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if this happened, if it's outside and it was snowing, and I'm like all by myself, I'm like, I'm literally going to die because my fingertips are cold all the time. I mean, I would just frostbite. I would just die of, you know, being freezing out on cold. And I don't want to do that. I want to get to the point where that is not my life, and I don't want to be down that way. So where I'm going, that's number one objective. Number two objective is I am not equipped right now to take advantage of the great wealth transfer that's going to happen, of the $34 trillion or whatever that dollar amount is that's going to go from the baby boomers to, you know, the Gen X's, you know, of that wealth transfer. I'm not one of my businesses is positioned to take advantage of that. Not one. I'm not selling anything that would take advantage of that. I don't have products that they could invest in that by doing that. I don't have anything. Nothing. And so that bothers me a lot, and that's where my mindset is headed, and that's where I need to go. I was kind of hoping to have some sort of celebration or something like that, and the more I thought about it, it's like, man, I am tired. This is my busiest time of the year for me, because I do all of the home shows and things like that, and I'm like, I'm drained. I don't have it in me. But then I'm like, you know what I need to do is I need to actually sit down and record my thoughts on my 25th anniversary of business, do some reflecting. You know, I want to thank God for what he's done for me, for my family, for the lessons that I've learned, because truthfully, that's really what it is. And that's where I feel like I am very blessed, and I am not financially there where I want to be, but I am I am blessed with the knowledge that God has given me, and people that have prayed for knowledge and things like that. I can tell you that it's there, and unfortunately, I've had to learn those lessons, and I think God did that on purpose, giving me the valuable lessons one at a time, and that kind of stinks. But at the same point in time, the information that I can relay to other people, and I think God's given me the ability to give that information out to other people, and for people to respect me, and to respect those things that I say. They might not agree with it. They're like, probably Ben's it, but I think also people realize that Ben's been down this road. I should probably just listen to this, you know. And there's a lot. There's a lot that God's taught me, and I think that's probably the biggest blessing. If you're not in church, you need to be, and that's one of the things that I think is amazing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was rather long, and I hope you have a wonderful day today, and have a great day.